watching Hope Online. I'm your host Samuel Maangi, and today I am blessed to have Bishop Kefa Omai, who is the chairman of the Evangelical Society of Kenya. Welcome so much, Bishop.
Thank you very much. Allow me to first of all say I'm actually the presiding bishop of Redeemed Gospel Church.
Okay.
Administratively, I'm the general overseer and a member of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. And at the same time, I am the chairman of the Kenya Church Ministers Forum. Kenya Church Ministers Forum is the coming together of all the evangelical Pentecostal alliances where EAK is a member. We have so many other alliances that are registered in this country. So we have just the three objectives, and that is to unite the evangelical Pentecostal family or community in Kenya. Number two, we come together to, collaborate and be able to engage on matters touching our nation, touching the church, and making sure that we are rallying behind this noble cause of advancing the kingdom of God in this country. So we not only come together, to unite the body of Christ, but we also speak into issues affecting our nation, especially like the issue that we are going to have a discussion on this morning.
Thank you so much for such an amazing introduction. At least we now have a background of exactly what you do and how the Evangelical Society and other ministries run. Now, we'll be discussing about a reproductive health bill, and let's just say the Evangelical Society blew the whistle on that particular bill that Senator Susan brought to Parliament. The first question would be, why now? I mean, the bill was tabled last year in September. Why now, Bishop?
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that after every 6 months, we see this kind of a trend where the forces that are behind Susan Kihika's bill normally come up. They use different avenues. They use different situations that arise in this country. You are aware, and you have been seeing through the media, you have also been highlighting that of the teenage pregnancies in this country, looking at the figures which seem to be escalating. Somehow that itself is questionable. We are questioning how the research team came up with the figure. But I can tell you all this is choreographed in such a way that it's able, or the statistics is able to back up the agenda of those forces that are actually pushing for the legalization and legislation of the abortion agenda. And there are so many other evils that are taking place behind the curtains.
Are you categorically saying that this particular bill, and how are you categorically saying that the rape cases, rather the teenage pregnancy cases, are fabricated?
Now, one thing that Kenyans should know and what should be understood is we have a challenge. Yes, we have a challenge. And the truth is we have these teenage pregnancies, but we have a question about the figures, the statistical numbers that have been given. We are talking of over 13,000 teenage girls who have become pregnant since COVID-19 situation. How possible is that? And how did they arrive at that figure? And then simultaneously, when the figure has been reported, what happens? We see the push and the agitation for this reproductive health bill.
But if you look at the timelines, Bishop, we're looking at that bill was tabled last year in September. And this particular statistics, pardon?
Yeah,
it was tabled last year in September 2019. And these statistics are coming during the COVID-19. So how can you relate the two and say that this statistic is to back up that particular bill that was tabled last year?
You need to understand that this is an agenda that has been there. It did begin yesterday. And the Kenya Church has always fought it. The faith communities in this country have always fought the agenda. You can recall we at the ICBD a conference that was held at KICC. And as much as it was something to do with development and the development agenda, but don't forget that in that, one of the agendas was to push for the abortion agenda. There was the LGBTQ. There were so many others that were actually clamped in, and you can recall at some point they wanted to actually find their way to parliament, and the legislators had to stand. You remember Aden Duale standing up and saying there is no way they'll find their way to parliament. Mm-hmm. So we also have experts, we have information of why the agitation, why the push for this especially productive LD bill. Like you have asked, that there is no correlation, but the truth of the matter is, this is something that began years back. You remember, the same bill was brought in Parliament by the one Judith Sijenyi when Mheshimiwa Kaimenyi was a minister for education. You remember that bill was introduced, and you recall Honorable Kaimenyi actually fighting it, and he stood up and he spoke against it. And then there were groups that also stood up, and we actually fought it. We said we cannot allow that because it's a channel, it's a conduit for moral decay in our society. So there are norms, there are cultures, there are values that we stand for, and also our faith does not allow, especially this diabolical agenda of pushing in for abortion and giving teenage girls, for example, contraceptives. And I mean, if you go through the bill, which is before Senate, honestly speaking, it is very problematic. It is evil, and that's why, as the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya and the Kenya Church Ministers Forum came up very strongly, we fought it, and we said there is no way it is going to see the light of day.
Let me
because it is a push which has been there. It's an escalation. It's an escalation. And I can tell you, I have documents with me right now that back up the position of the Kenya Church. I have documents that clearly show that there are forces behind the pushing of this bill. And that's why the Kenya Church is standing up and shouting.
Now, Bishop, you keep saying there are forces that are behind this. Do you mind telling us what these forces are?
You know, we have a number of civil rights movements, and we have a number. It's only that I couldn't share this with you earlier on, but I can tell you there is so much that we have, and you know, we have so much, and some has even found its way to Senate. Just to prove the point that bishops are not just shouting for the sake of shouting. We are not speaking for the sake of speaking. I can tell you, before we issue a press statement as the Kenya Church Ministers Forum, before we say anything, we normally check out. We want to know whether what we are going to say is truthful or not.
Now let us go to...
We work very closely, Mr. Maangi.
Yes.
We work very closely with the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. We work very closely with the Kenya Christians Forum, Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. This is a forum that comprises of doctors, very seasoned doctors in this country. They're Christians. We also have lawyers, very seasoned lawyers. If I mention some of the names, you'll be shocked. We have accomplished professionals in this country. So what they do is, whenever an issue comes up, they do their research. And also they vet to find out. They go through legislation documents, so that we ask them questions, we interrogate, and then as shepherds in this country, we have a responsibility. Remember, we not only shepherd our congregations, but we also shepherd the nation. We are an apostolic and prophetic people. And when we see anything that's evil, it's our responsibility to stand up as watchmen and speak. So we have information, we have documents, and even right now as we are talking, you'll be shocked that there is a plan to hold a demonstration on 7/7, that is during Sabasaba Day. And the same forces are the ones who are actually planning for that demonstration. Unfortunately, we have all this information, we have our own intelligence, and whoever thought that bishops and pastors in this country do not do research, they're misplaced and they're misled. This is a new dispensation, and anybody's listening should get to know we have the information.
So what you're saying basically with how Susan Hickory responded in some briefing, she said that your response was probably informed and malicious. You're totally in disagreement to that.
It's a defense statement, it's a defense, and we know the politics in this country, Sammy. We know the politics in this country. When somebody has been cornered and when someone has been found out, they will find any language, any excuse. I was shocked. Personally, I was shocked when actually I heard Senator Susan Kihika saying that it was disheartening and the least of all from the church ministers that she respects. Now, surely, must we keep quiet when we see are being used as a conduit, being used to push an agenda that is demonic, that is evil, that is wicked, and that is immoral in this country, not at our watch as watchmen and as servants of God that have been raised up at such a time as this to fight for the voiceless and to fight for the innocent. We will not watch to see the moral decay in our country.
Thank you for blowing up the whistle on this reproductive bill. But then I'm sure that there are some viewers who are watching who have not gone through this particular bill. Can you tell us what are these problematic areas that you see that you do want our viewer to be aware about, and if possibly take a look at the bill? What are these problematic areas?
Now, number one, Sammy, you see, anything called an act of parliament, anything called a legislation, or let me use a simple terms, anything called a legal document is subject to interpretation. Is subject to interpretation. Whenever, for example, a matter has been legislated, there has to be the element of clarity and not ambiguity. Now, the language that is used in that bill has lack of clarity and it's ambiguous. Some of the statements that you see or the wordings which are used in the bill, all right, leaves us with a lot of questions. Like I've said, the law is subject to interpretation. And that's why it is always important before any matter is legislated or becomes law, it is discussed, the stakeholders are involved, even lawyers from different, forums come in to look at the language that is being used, because when a matter goes to court, it is what is written and the interpretation that at the end of the day determines the case. So
are you in one way saying, because Susan Kika said that the stakeholders were involved and you, let's say the church, were involved. Are you going contrary to that statement?
That's a lie. I can tell you it's a lie. For example, when we talk about stakeholders here, we are talking about faith leaders or the faith community in this country. We are talking about the civil societies. We are talking about parents association. We are talking about the teachers association. Let them come out clearly and tell us where did they do or carry out public participation. You cannot call people into a hotel, fund their tea and the snacks, and then you said you carried out public participation. Number two, if a research was done, what kind of sample size did they use? We are educated. We are educated. And let Kenyans know, we have church leaders, we have bishops on platforms today that have gone to school. Some of us have read law. We have read, and we are able to analyze. So let them tell us what kind of public participation was carried out. Number two,
the first problematic area is saying that
what kind of sample size, kind of sample size was used in carrying out the research, and then we call it public participation. Honestly.
Okay, now, I get your point. Now, the first point that you said about that was problematic is that it lacked clarity and the words they used there were ambiguous. What other problematic area did you see in this particular bill?
Now, for example, so that I'm able to amplify before I come to that,
yes,
depending on the time that we have, you see this bill, for example, I want to read for you something. Let me read something. A bill for an act of parliament for the right to reproductive health care, to set standards of reproductive health, provide for the right to make decisions regarding reproductive health and for connected purposes. Now, I'm just picking some of this. The clause 2 of the bill, in case you have that copy, the clause
Yes.
2 of the bill, yeah, is the interpretation part of the bill and defines certain key terms in a broad, sweeping, and vague manner that opens up the bill to mischief and abuse. That's a word that should come out very clear for misuse and for abuse. For example, Sammy, reproductive health is defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Now, we church leaders and the religious community, we take great exception to this definition of reproductive health. All right? Because it includes social well-being, because the definition introduces the idea of social well-being without stating what exactly is meant by social well-being and who determines this state of affairs. In other words, what I'm trying to show you, there are some terminologies which are used in the bill that are wanting. And that's why we say they're problematic.
Okay.
And we say what should have been done is to involve stakeholders, if indeed we are talking of how we can cap the challenging situation that we have with our children, for example, the teenage pregnancies. We believe there is a way we can go around that. For example, we need to agree that we come up with a curriculum-based approach that should be used in churches, that should be used in mosques or in madrasas, wherever, so that this issue is handled like we do from the church side, but with a clear direction, but not open the space for forces that are to entrench their agenda. And I can tell you the agenda is to reduce population. For example, in this bill, there is a place where any child, and that's how we interpret it, any child that is discovered to be a special child, deformed or something like that, all right? There is a terminology used there that provides room for that child to be terminated before it is born.
I think that is one of the things that Susan Kika
That's murder.
probably
That's
did
killing.
that
That's
correction.
murder. Exactly. So we have such kind of terminologies, and then looking at the age of the sexual thing over here, comprehensive sexual issue that we've been talking about. That a child between 10 to 18 years has the freedom to have pleasure through sexual intimacy. Now, surely, I never grew up seeing that. A child between 10 to 18. What are we trying to talk about? And then these children will have the right, if this bill went through, will have the right, all right, to use contraceptives, and will have the right to enjoy, there is a term used there, pleasure. Now, surely, sex is not for pleasure, it is for procreation.
Yeah.
All right? So why are we averting the whole thing? And it's like we are doing politics around it. We are simply coming from the point of saying, hey, wait a minute. This bill has got poison in it. Now, let me take you back to 2010. In 2010, when we were actually, the church stood and said no to the current constitution. You remember?
Yeah.
You remember? What are some of the things that the church was shouting against? It is this thing, which again is coming at this time. We saw it coming up during Judith Sijenyi. Now it is again coming up this time. And they are taking advantage of the teenage pregnancies. So what I'm trying to say is this, so that our people can actually get to understand why bishops have stood. And I can tell you, the Supreme also have stood up. All the religious communities in this country are up in arms saying, this bill will not see the light of day. Why? It's problematic. It has clauses in it which are going to open a door for the moral decay of our society, and especially the target is our young people. And the whole thing is reduce population.
Okay, now let me bring you in your last discourse. You said clarity and ambiguity. There's an issue of sex as pleasure, and now I want to bring you to an aspect that you've also brought about, the aspect of abortion. First of all, the
Yes.
Constitution says abortion is a crime, but then what's your take on safe abortion? Are you saying we cannot have a class of safe abortion?
Now, this is where we are saying about public participation. We have accomplished doctors, very senior doctors, and some of them are in the same field, who are actually who are believers, who are Christians. Why are they not being involved in coming up with what you are talking about? Legislations or a policy that can lead into legislating what can actually take care, for example, of a mother whose life is in danger, right? We are not saying that that should not be. We do understand, and we know there are times when the life of a mother is in danger, and I believe that is provided for in the Constitution. But you see what is happening over here. They want to open the space, the agenda which has always been agitated for, all right, is actually, it finds its way into the Constitution. So the whole thing is open a door, and then remember the story of a camel and a traveler, all right? The traveler loved this camel, and the camel loved the traveler the most, and go to a place where it was very cold, and the man decided to erect a tent so that he could protect himself from the cold, but he left the camel outside, all right? And the camel kept on pleading with the master, kindly allow me just to only have one leg into the tent so that I can feel some warmth. At the end of the day, fast forward, is the camel found itself into the tent and kicked out the man and said, you have been enjoying yourself, you have been feeling warm in the tent, it's my time now to feel warm in the tent. So now you open a door or a window, a foothold, that's how we call it. It keeps on escalating to something else. Sooner or later, Maangi will find that we are a society that has embraced moral degradation. We know what is happening, especially in some of those developed countries. Go to some of the developed countries that embraced this kind of agenda, and they are actually regretting why they did what they did. But I can tell you, forget about what the Bible teaches and our faith as believers, but even the culture in this country does not allow some of this mischief that our people are clapping for, they are craving for, simply because of money. We cannot mortgage our nation. We cannot mortgage the moral fabric of this nation because of money. And I can tell you, we are awake to the reality. This is a new dispensation.
Amazing. Now, the
and let them come around.
and rather
let them come around the table. Let them come around the table.
Okay, now the issue about teenage pregnancy, it's not new to society. Now somebody will go on defense line and say, since it's not new, what has the church done about this? Because it looks like you respond when a particular bill is being brought up to speed. What is the church doing about this? And the issue about sex education, what's your take on that?
I can tell you, Sammy, we talk about it in our churches. We have youth ministries, for example, we have Sunday school. If you do some cross-checking, you'll find most churches have got a syllabus, or we have lessons where we teach about righteousness, we teach about holiness. That's something that we preach and we talk about. In my own church, I have taken almost like 3 Sundays speaking about walking in righteousness. Now, we may not come out in public and begin to shout like politicians, or come to the media and begin to debate, the way they do it. But I can tell you, on our platforms, we teach morality.
How
and we use the word of God to show it is effective, because we have the youth groups to begin with. We have the youth groups where we have this kind of topics. We normally have roundtable discussions. I believe every church that is serious enough have got the same program, where they have a proper designed kind of course or Bible study to engage with young people on the importance of abstaining themselves from such kind of behavior. And I can tell you, a number of churches have succeeded. But what is happening is this, sorry to say, it's a challenge that we have, and I think it's good for us to say the truth. It's a challenge because the media is before our children, and not all the media stations do what Op Channel is doing. Let's agree on that. We have these gadgets, the phones and the laptops and everything. The social media space is there before our children, so they're exposed to all manner of behaviors. And I can tell you, as we pray for them, as we also teach them, like we do in our church services or in our church setups, we also need to use every opportunity that we get to speak out on what we teach back in our churches. And when something like this comes up, it's our responsibility not to keep quiet, but to shout, to speak out, and let Kenyans know that not everything that is imported from outside is going to be a blessing to us, and it's going to help us in this country.
Now, I'm happy that we are quickly running out of time, and you brought in an aspect of LGBTQ. Going through that particular bill, there's a particular aspect that there's the aspect that says a partner in this particular presentation refers to the opposite sex. Kindly take us to how you have derived the aspect of LGBTQ in this particular bill. I'm referring to number 6, that is.
Yeah, but I may not want to really get so much into that, but when we talk about LGBT, that's another agenda altogether. Right now, I think we are talking about the reproductive health bill, but LGBTQ is another thing altogether, where actually the bottom line is sodomy, which is an abomination before God. Tell me, Sammy, can you imagine you would have not been born if your dad had a partner of the same sex? There's no way that would have happened, right? And even if not so, society does not condone that. We are Africans, and we know what our values are, our norms are. We know what we celebrate, what we stand for as a community or as Africans. Whatever we are hearing is the same thing that happened in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. And the Bible is very clear about that. So we cannot actually sit back, relax, and see some of these evils and diabolical weird behaviors being sneaked into our constitution simply because of human rights. There are some rights which are not rights, but they are evil, they are abominable, and will condemn them with the strongest terms possible. Not when some of us are alive, not at our watch.
Okay, you're quickly going to...
And that's why, Maangi, if I can say, we are coming out very strong, and let Kenyans know this is not those days when somebody will come up, be funded, and push an agenda. We are in a new dispensation. We are awake, we are alert, and anything that is evil, anything that's immoral, anything that does not resonate with what we believe in will not see the light of day. Let them know we are believers in parliament, both in the National Assembly and in Senate. And we have said we are keeping an eye. Anybody we voted into parliament, voted for, into Senate, that will allow this, be assured that their days are numbered in parliament.
Thank you very much, Bishop. Now I'd like you to give your closing statement to the viewers watching, and tell them what concerns that they should be aware of in this particular bill, and generally in how we're conducting ourselves during this pandemic.
Yeah, first of all, let me say this to clarify. We do know their challenges. We do know there are mothers sometimes whose lives can be in danger, and the medical expertise who are accredited, the accredited medical personnel are able to sit and make a decision as to what should be done, especially when the life of a mother is in danger. And that is taken care of in the Constitution. We don't have a problem with that. What we have, we are concerned about is where our children between 10 and 18 years are going to be given contraceptives they are going to be given what is called the children's right to enjoy sexual intimacy and call it pleasure with and without the consent of their parents. And I will tell you, if we allow that to happen in this country, then parents, let me tell you, your child that will turn 10 will move into that. You will not stop her. She will say she's entitled, it's her right to enjoy and have pleasure, sexually speaking. Is that what you'd want to see of your daughter? That's why, as shepherds in this country, we are coming up and saying, whenever anybody wants to introduce a bill in Parliament or before Senate, let them involve the stakeholders. Let them involve the stakeholders. We have, and the Constitution is very clear about that, about public participation. When we talk about public participation, for example, during the BBI, you saw the team going around this country, and even the church was actually involved. We even did our presentation, and we said what we feel need to be considered at the end of the day. So that is public participation, but not just meeting people somewhere in a hotel, buy them tea and then come up with some funny bills, and also, because of it's so unfortunate. Let's be alert. And if you believe that bishops and pastors are there for your spiritual well-being and for the well-being of the nation, if you believe that the faith leaders are there as the moral conscience of society, please listen to what the bishops are saying. And for once, just get to know we are fighting for the moral well-being of our society.
Thank you so much, Kefa. You have been speaking to Kefa Uma, who's the chairman of the Evangelical Church of Kenya, isn't it?
Yes, I'm a member of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya,
yes,
but the chairman of the Kenya Church Ministers Forum.
So thank you so much, Bishop. Thank you for your time. Please find time and get to read this particular bill and get to understand these critical issues, because they're pertinent and we have a say in what really affects us. And this, as Bishop has said, if we believe that our spiritual leaders are there to guide us, let's heed to them, and let us also take a personal initiative to get to read this particular bill. Thank you for being with us. I've been your host, Samuel Maangi. Till next time, stay safe, stay blessed.